Welcome back to Everything Whiskey. I'm Callum.
I'm Sam.
And today we're having a look at For Pete's Sake.
Alrighty, so back with the lockdown episode, we're going to do the Peat, For Peat's Sake. It's backwards, so you can't really read it. Or maybe it won't be by the time that they see it. It'll like flip back.
I can read it.
Oh, I can't read mine. Anyway, that's probably why we've been like swapping without us even noticing. Basically, what we've got is another kind of like budgety, like big corporation going into making something that's both budgety and peaty, which is good because budget peat, especially in Australia, is very hard to come by. Label design, everything's kind of cool. Basically, the story they went with is this guy was loading peat and stuff into the fire when they were making whiskey back in the day, and he accidentally threw way too big of a shovel full into it, and it like billowed out smoke everywhere and burnt people's eyebrows. And someone, the guy, his manager, whatever it would be back then, yelled, "Oh, for Pete's sake," or something. And then it turned out to be a really smoky whiskey, and they liked it, and super cool, fun story. They're just using, I don't know. I like the name. It's like, it's a dad.
It's kind of corny.
It's a pun, dad joke kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know. It's fine. The story, I think, is probably not, I don't know, it could be real, but like I don't think it makes any difference to, and didn't happen to anyone that in the business or anything like that. They don't know. Anyway, it's 40%. It's definitely got food dye. I'm sorry if anyone cares about that.
Yeah,
we care about it a little bit because it's kind of like, it doesn't change the flavor, but it kind of puts a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth, just in your opinion of the distillery, like trying to fool you and not owning, like, no matter what it looks like, it'll taste good kind of like mentality, instead of like giving stuff lots of dye to make it look older than it is. It's no age statement.
Is this actually from Isla?
I don't know. It's just smoky and peaty. It's a blended Scotch whiskey. We have no idea.
From Isla, most of them are
we would have no
ale
idea.
anyway, so
but
it's
even,
like, why would you go to them?
Even ones that aren't Isla, they're still a lot paler than this. If this whiskey
it's always orange in your camera.
Is naturally this color, then it would be able to be an age statement version. And if that was the case, they would have put one on there. Like, yeah. I get it's blended, but like, surely, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like 90% sure it's food dye. It doesn't really matter. We'll get into the actual review of it. I like the idea of budget smoke. It's just a little...
It's never really worked out here, to be honest. We haven't found a good budget Isla anyway. The best was probably
it smells like
the Ardmore, but still $90 or something.
This is kind of, for me, it's mostly akin to the Johnny Walker Double Black, which I'm a fan of, but this is also thinner than that, and it's got like a bit of a weird wet dog note. It smells. There
is peat. There's
definitely peat
on the nose.
Yeah, so there's peat.
Yeah, that wet dog, you really hit that. Like, it's
right. It's like, I don't know,
like wet hay almost as well. It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I don't know. It's like you tipped this whiskey onto your dog and like held the cup under it, kind of thing. Like, it's just got this weird wet dog note to it.
Pleasant imagery.
I know. It's not like overpowering and stuff, and it doesn't make it like disgusting. It's just like a slight weird kind of funkiness with the brine.
It's just be the malt though.
Yeah, the malt and the brine.
Yeah.
The grains.
Especially do we know how many whiskeys went into this?
No. No, we do not.
Yeah. I wonder if it falls flat. If it falls flat. I hope it doesn't, because I want this to be good. Because how much was it? It's cheap, isn't it? It's dirt cheap.
Nah, it wasn't dirt cheap. It was like $50.
Relatively
pretty
cheap.
It's budgety, especially for an Isla, but it's not dirt cheap. But spoiler alert, it does fall quite flat. It ends up nowhere near as peaty. And it kind of ends up tasting like orange peel with bitters, and it tastes like a badly made warm old fashioned kind of thing.
It actually does.
It's got this weird like orangeness, fake orangeness to it, with this kind of slight dash of bitters, and then like all that like if you added, you know, shivers or something into it as well, like it kind of sits like that with like this weird kind of side note of wet dog smoke.
Yeah, but it's like chewing on orange peel itself with the bitters sprinkled on top with a bit of sugar.
It's a bad it tastes like a bad old fashioned.
And that peat actually kind of dissipates into nothingness.
It's like just there like initially, and then it goes straight away, and you're just left with this sweetness.
That's actually quite disappointing. The nose is peaty though. The nose actually holds
but the nose still does have that kind of orange peel bitterness and stuff to it as well. So that's like, at least that carries through. But yeah, the peat just ends up, it's a little bit woody and ashy, and there's a slight taste of that brininess from peat, but it's definitely not as dramatic as the nose, and the nose wasn't dramatic. It was just there. So it kind of makes this, the peat side of things does drop.
Yeah.
But see, it's disappointing in that like way that it isn't as peaty, but it's still not a bad whiskey. It's more interesting than some of the other ones you can get at a kind of similar price.
I imagine this being, the majority of it is like a Highland base with a few Isla whiskies on top. Maybe not even Isla, maybe it's like a couple of Johnny Blacks or something.
Yeah, but Johnny Black is using Isla in theirs. That's why, because it blends as well.
But,
it'll just be something from probably Kalila or something, like a small amount of Kalila. They're the ones doing the biggest percentage of Islas going into blends. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's Kalila in this or something like that. And then, probably just a bunch of other smaller kind of Highland distilleries.
On the finish, there's a waxy nut as well, which is...
I like that it's got some low notes, and I like that. I like that it's got some earthy notes. I just wish it was a little bit more peaty on the taste than it is. I wish it just held up the same as it did on the nose. Like
I think my expectations for peat are just ridiculously high. Because I love
that is definitely actually something we definitely need to...
I just love heavy peat that throws me around.
Know, but how many peat heads are there that are just into like light peat? Like, feel if you're a peat head, you kind of go all the way. You go Lafroig, you go Ardbeg, you go Lagavulin, you go, you know...
they might appreciate it a bit more. Whereas it's like, why would I go for this? That's my thought process.
Yeah.
It's like when you go double the price, you get Ardbeg 10. It's like, why would you ever go for this? Less
than double. You can get the Ardbeg for like $85-$90, and this was like $50-$55. So for less than like, you're still well under 100, and you can get an Ardbeg 10. You can get the Lafroig Select. You can sometimes get the Lafroig 10.
Exactly.
For all under 100. I get going for something budget. If you're like, no, I'm on a budget. It's like 50 or under kind of thing. And you see this. And you're like, oh, I want something. You're expecting to buy the same thing like your John Samson and stuff like that. But you see this and you're like, oh, normally I'm a peat person. So I'd like to buy this and get hopefully a bit more kind of like more unique notes out of compared to the normal budget range. Yeah. That definitely serves that. It does have that. It's just not as peaty and briny and stuff as I would like. But that's not to say that it's not enough for a lot of other people. Yeah. It's just a little bit thin and stuff. But as budgets go, it's no thinner than any of the other ones. So I don't think there's any real faults with this at all. Just a little bit of disappointment about it being not as peaty as the nose would suggest. Yeah. Alrighty, if you like this episode of Everything Whiskey, leave us a like. If you want to see future episodes from us, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button. If you do, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Cheers.